The Obsidian Decree. The Krillian warship, Nightfall, pierced through the veil of hyperspace, an obsidian dagger against the velvet backdrop of the cosmos. Its sleek, angular design, devoid of unnecessary ornamentation, spoke of brutal efficiency and unyielding purpose. Inside the command center, Empress Valeriana observed the tactical displays with an impassive gaze. Her Krillian physiology was subtly imposing. Shimmering, deep indigo scales covered her frame, catching and refracting the ambient light in a mesmerizing dance. Her eyes, twin pools of molten gold, missed nothing. Before her lay Earth, a swirling sapphire marble suspended in the inky black. A world of fragile beauty, teeming with a species that dared to defy the Krillian decree. Valeriana found herself intrigued. Most civilizations crumbled at the mere sight of her armada. This one had teeth. "Readings, Counselor Lyra," Valeriana commanded, her voice a low, melodic resonance that echoed through the chamber. Counselor Lyra, a being of quiet intellect and strategic foresight, stepped forward. Her scales were a softer shade of lavender, indicative of her scholarly role within the Krillian hierarchy. "Empress, the planet's defense grid is primitive. Energy-based weaponry, limited orbital platforms. Their long-range capabilities are negligible compared to Nightfall's primary batteries." Negligible, yet defiant, Valeriana mused, a hint of amusement coloring her tone. "They received our message." "Yes, Empress." The universal translator confirmed receipt. "Their response, or rather, lack thereof, is telling. On Earth, within the subterranean bunkers of the Earth Defense Initiative, EDI, headquarters, Captain Theron Vall stared at the holographic projection of the Krillian warship. Vall was a man sculpted by years of unwavering commitment to duty. His face, etched with the harsh lines of responsibility and countless sleepless nights, reflected the weight of his command. His uniform, the standard gray of the EDI, was immaculate, a testament to his meticulous nature. "Anything, people," Vall barked, his voice raspy but commanding. Around him, the control room hummed with activity. Technicians hunched over consoles, their fingers dancing across the interfaces, desperately seeking an advantage in what appeared to be an insurmountable situation. Lieutenant Eva Rostova, her expression a mixture of anxiety and determination, reported, "Captain, we're still analyzing their energy signature. It's unlike anything we've encountered. Their shields are impenetrable, sir." "Impenetrable isn't an option, Lieutenant," Vall retorted, his gaze hardening. "We buy time. That's all we need. Time for the Council to come to their senses and authorize a full-scale mobilization." He knew, deep down, that the Council's response would be too little, too late. Bureaucracy and political infighting had always been humanity's greatest weakness. He glanced at the projection again. The Nightfall was a predator, poised to strike. Back on the Nightfall, Valeriana grew impatient. "Their silence is disappointing. Prepare a localized energy pulse, a demonstration of our persuasion." Lyra hesitated. "Empress, with all due respect, a show of force might be premature. Intelligence reports suggest this species is unpredictable. A hostile action could provoke an unforeseen reaction." "Unforeseen is simply unprepared for, Counselor," Valeriana countered, her voice laced with steel. "I tire of this dance. Execute the decree." As the Nightfall prepared to unleash its energy pulse, Vall made a decision. "Open a channel. All frequencies." The technicians looked at him in disbelief. "Captain, are you sure?" "That's Protocol Omega. It's only authorized for first contact scenarios." "This is first contact, Lieutenant," Vall said grimly. "Just not the kind we hoped for. Put me through." The holographic projection flickered, then stabilized, revealing the imposing figure of Empress Valeriana. Vall straightened his uniform, meeting her gaze with unwavering resolve. "I am Captain Theron Vall, of the Earth Defense Initiative." he announced, his voice steady despite the tremor of apprehension that ran through him. "You have entered our airspace uninvited. State your intentions." Valeriana tilted her head, her golden eyes gleaming with amusement. "Captain Vol, a pleasure. I am Empress Valeriana, ruler of the Krillian Empire. Your planet has been deemed suitable for integration into our dominion. Surrender now, and I assure you, the transition will be relatively painless." Vol's jaw tightened. "We are not interested in surrendering, Empress. This is our home. We will defend it." Valeriana's amusement vanished, replaced by a flicker of something akin to respect. "You misunderstand, Captain. Resistance is futile. Your technology is centuries behind ours. Your defenses are laughable. Why choose annihilation when you can have assimilation?" "Assimilation is annihilation by another name," Vol countered. "We value our freedom, Empress, a concept I suspect you may not fully grasp." Lyra gasped softly beside Valeriana. Such direct defiance was unheard of. Valeriana's scales darkened slightly. "You are challenging me, Captain." "I am stating a fact, Empress," Vol replied, his voice unwavering. "We will not yield. We will not break. We will fight you to the last breath." A long silence hung in the air, broken only by the hum of machinery. Valeriana studied Vol, her expression unreadable. Finally, she spoke, her voice a low, dangerous purr. "Very well, Captain Vol. You have made your choice. Prepare to face the consequences." The holographic projection dissolved, leaving Vol staring at the cold, uncaring image of the Nightfall. "Brace yourselves," he ordered, his voice grim. "They're about to unleash hell." The Nightfall unleashed its energy pulse. A searing beam of violet light lanced out, striking Earth's atmosphere with terrifying force. Cities trembled, oceans boiled, and the sky turned a sickly shade of green. But Earth did not crumble. The EDI's shield network, though primitive, held. Barely. Valeriana watched the display, her golden eyes narrowed in surprise. "Their shields, they are stronger than anticipated. Lyra, adjust the targeting matrix. Increase the energy output by 30%. Lyra obeyed, her fingers flying across the control panel. "Empress, I still believe a diplomatic approach is advisable. This species possesses a resilience that belies their technological inferiority." "Resilience is admirable, Counselor," Valeriana replied, her voice devoid of emotion. "But it is not enough. The Krillian Empire does not negotiate with defiance. It crushes it." The Nightfall prepared for a second strike. Vol knew that their shields wouldn't hold for long. They were buying time, but time was running out. He looked at his crew, their faces pale with fear, but their eyes filled with determination. "We stand our ground," he said, his voice resonating with unwavering conviction. "We fight for our home. We fight for our freedom. We fight for humanity." As the second energy pulse hurtled towards Earth, Vol closed his eyes, bracing for the inevitable. But then, something unexpected happened. A blinding flash of light erupted from the upper atmosphere. A swirling vortex of energy materialized, deflecting the Krillian beam and sending it spiraling harmlessly into space. Valeriana gasped. What was that?" Lyra frantically analyzed the readings. "Empress, I don't know. The energy signature is anomalous. It's unlike anything we've ever encountered." The vortex dissipated, leaving behind a strange, shimmering aura that pulsed with an otherworldly energy. Vol opened his eyes, stunned. What in God's name? The unexpected intervention had bought them a reprieve, but it had also raised a far more unsettling question. What, or who, had just saved Earth, and what did they want? Valeriana felt a flicker of unease. The situation was no longer as predictable as she had assumed. Earth, it seemed, had more than one trick up its sleeve. The game had changed. And Valeriana, Empress of the Krillian Empire, found herself intrigued. Very intrigued, and she orders to stop the attack and contact with Earth to know more about it. Shadows of deceit. The containment field shimmered, trapping the architect within its quantum embrace. Its once imposing form flickered, revealing glimpses of something ancient and malevolent beneath the manufactured guise. "You cannot contain us," the architect roared, its voice distorted and layered with the echoes of countless civilizations. "We are beyond your comprehension. We are the harbingers of cosmic evolution." Nikolai stood firm, his gaze unwavering. "You are parasites, feeding on the conflict and destruction of others. Your evolution is nothing more than a slow, agonizing death for entire galaxies." Zandara, her scales radiating a cold, calculating energy, addressed the trapped entity. "We know what you are, architect. Dr. Wei's analysis of the ancient texts revealed your true purpose. You orchestrated the development of powerful weapons, only to incite wars that would fuel your master's insatiable hunger." The architect's form convulsed. "Lies. We sought only to prepare you for the true enemy, the devourer of worlds that lurks in the void." But the facade was crumbling. The containment field was working, draining the architect's power and revealing the emptiness beneath the surface. "What do we do with it?" Nikolai asked, turning to Zandara. "We can't simply destroy it. Its essence is tied to the very fabric of space-time." Zandara considered the implications. The ancient texts spoke of a way to sever the connection, to isolate the architect from its master. But it requires a conduit, a being with a unique resonance to the quantum matrix. Admiral K stepped forward, his obsidian scales gleaming in the dim light. "My queen, I volunteer. My cybernetic enhancements have attuned my neural pathways to the quantum realm. I can serve as the conduit." Nikolai frowned. "That's too risky, Admiral. We don't know what the process entails. It could be fatal." "The risk is necessary, Commander," K replied, his voice unwavering. "The fate of 2 civilizations, perhaps more, hangs in the balance." Zandara studied K, her golden eyes searching for any sign of deceit. But she saw only unwavering loyalty and a willingness to sacrifice himself for the greater good. "Very well, Admiral," she said, her voice heavy with reluctance. "Prepare yourself. Dr. Wei, guide him through the process." As Dr. Wei led K to a nearby chamber, Nikolai turned to Zandara. "I don't trust him, Zandara. He was the one who leaked the hybrid weapon data. He's been working with the architects all along." Zandara's scales darkened. "I suspected as much, but I needed proof. K's willingness to sacrifice himself is the final confirmation. He believes he can use this opportunity to further the architect's agenda." "What do you mean?" Nikolai asked, his brow furrowed in confusion. "The architects crave energy, Commander," Zandara explained. "K intends to use the severing process to channel even more energy to their master, to break the containment field and unleash chaos upon the galaxy." Nikolai cursed under his breath. "We have to stop him." "We will," Zandara said, her voice filled with determination. "But we must be careful. K is powerful, and he knows our every move. We need a way to neutralize him without jeopardizing the severing process." As K prepared to enter the conduit chamber, Dr. Wei approached him, her expression filled with concern. "Admiral," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, "I have detected anomalies in your cybernetic systems. They are resonating with the architect's energy signature. I believe you are being manipulated." K smiled coldly. "You are mistaken, Doctor. I am simply fulfilling my duty to the Empire." "But at what cost, Admiral?" Dr. Wei pleaded. "The architects are using you. They will betray you in the end." K's smile vanished, replaced by a look of icy determination. "Silence, Doctor. The fate of the galaxy is at stake. I will not allow your petty concerns to interfere." He activated his cybernetic implants, flooding his neural pathways with energy. His eyes glowed with an unnatural light, and his scales shimmered with an ominous power. "Prepare the conduit," he ordered, his voice distorted and mechanical. The severing must begin. As the conduit chamber activated, engulfing Kay in a swirling vortex of energy, Nikolai and Xandera prepared to make their move. "We have to be precise," Nikolai said, his voice grim. "One wrong move, and we could unleash the Architect's master upon the galaxy." Xandera nodded, her golden eyes blazing with determination. "We will not fail, Nikolai. We will not let the Architects win." With a silent nod, they stepped into the conduit chamber, ready to confront Admiral K and sever the Architect's connection once and for all. Inside the chamber, K was floating in the center of the vortex, his body racked with energy. His cybernetic implants were glowing intensely, channeling the Architect's power through his neural pathways. "The severing is complete," he cried, his voice echoing through the chamber. "The Architect is free." But as he spoke, the vortex began to shift, its energy patterns changing in subtle but significant ways. Dr. Wei, working from a remote console, had activated a counter-sequence, disrupting the Architect's influence and redirecting the energy flow. "You were wrong, Admiral," Nikolai said, his voice ringing with authority. "The Architect is not free. We have severed its connection to its master. And we have severed your connection to the Architects." Kay's eyes widened in disbelief. "Impossible. I followed their instructions perfectly." "You followed what you believed to be their instructions," Xandera said, her voice laced with contempt. "But we knew your true allegiance. We anticipated your every move, and we turned your treachery against you." The containment field re-established itself, trapping the Architect once more. But this time, it was different. The connection to its master was severed, and its power was fading rapidly. Kay screamed in rage and frustration, his cybernetic implants overloading. His body convulsed, and his scales began to crack and crumble. "You fools!" he cried, his voice barely audible above the roar of the vortex. "You have doomed us all. The Devourer will come, and it will consume everything." With a final surge of energy, Kay's body exploded, his essence dissolving into the quantum matrix. The conduit chamber fell silent, the only sound the hum of the containment field. He paused, his metallic eyes narrowing. "But we must proceed with caution. Valeriana is not to be trusted. She is as ambitious and ruthless as any Centaurian warlord. We must ensure that this alliance serves our own interests." "What do you propose, Rorgak?" Krell asked. "We will agree to meet with the humans and Krillians," Rorgak said. "But we will set the terms. The meeting will take place on neutral ground, in a location of our choosing, and we will bring a force strong enough to crush them if they attempt to betray us." Krell nodded in agreement. "It shall be done, Rorgak." As the arrangements for the meeting were finalized, Valeriana and Theron prepared to transport the Architect to a secure location. They chose a remote, uninhabited moon on the fringes of Krillian space, a place where the Architect's influence would be minimal. The containment vessel, a massive, heavily shielded sphere, was loaded onto a transport ship and escorted by a squadron of Krillian warships. Valeriana and Theron accompanied the transport ship, determined to ensure that the Architect remained safely contained. As they approached the designated moon, however, they detected a sudden surge of energy emanating from the containment vessel. Alarms blared throughout the transport ship as the vessel began to shake violently. "What's happening?" Theron demanded. Lyra, her face pale with alarm, replied, "The Architect. It's trying to break free. It's using its powers to disrupt the containment field." Valeriana's scales darkened with fury, increased the shield intensity. Do whatever it takes to keep it contained. But it was too late. With a deafening roar, the containment vessel shattered, releasing the Architect in a blinding flash of energy. The transport ship was rocked by the explosion, and the surrounding warships were thrown into disarray. Valeriana and Theron found themselves thrown to the floor, their bodies battered and bruised. As they struggled to their feet, they saw the Architect standing before them, its form radiating an aura of immense power. "You cannot contain us," it said, its voice filled with triumph. "We are beyond your control. Now you will pay the price for your defiance." With a wave of its hand, the architect unleashed a torrent of energy, engulfing Valeriana and Theron in a searing inferno. The fate of the galaxy hung in the balance as the architect prepared to unleash its full power upon its former captors. The labyrinth of the architect's schemes was far from solved. Echoes of betrayal. The architect, ensnared within the quantum containment field, writhed in impotent rage. Its shimmering form flickered, revealing glimpses of the ancient, malevolent entity that lurked beneath the surface. "You have sealed your doom," it shrieked, its voice a discordant chorus of echoes. "You cannot comprehend the forces you have unleashed. The devourer will come, and it will consume all." Zandara, her scales radiating a cold, determined light, stepped closer to the containment field. "We understand perfectly what you have done, Architect. You have manipulated civilizations for millennia, engineering conflicts and technological advancements to feed your insatiable master." Nikolai, standing beside her, his face grim, added, "But you underestimated the resilience of the human spirit and the strength of the alliance we have forged with the Dracarians. We will not be your pawns any longer." The architect snarled. "Fools, you cannot hope to stand against the devourer. It exists beyond your comprehension, beyond the very fabric of reality. It will consume your galaxy, your universe, and all that you hold dear." Ignoring the architect's dire pronouncements, Zandara turned to Admiral K, who stood silently at the edge of the bridge, his obsidian scales unusually dull. "Admiral, prepare a vessel. We will transport the architect to a secure location, where we can attempt to sever its connection to the devourer." Admiral K nodded curtly, his gaze averted. "As you command, Empress." As the preparations for the architect's transport were underway, Dr. Wei approached Nikolai, her expression troubled. "Commander, I have discovered something disturbing in the architect's energy signature. It is resonating with a specific frequency, a frequency that is also present in Admiral K's cybernetic implants." Nikolai's eyes narrowed. "What are you suggesting, Doctor?" "I believe that Admiral K has been compromised," Dr. Wei replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "The architect has been using him as a conduit, feeding him information and influencing his actions." Nikolai cursed under his breath. He had suspected that Admiral K was hiding something, but he had never imagined that he was a pawn of the architect's. "We need to act quickly," he said. "If Admiral K is working with the architect, he could sabotage our efforts to contain it." Zandara, overhearing their conversation, approached them, her scales darkening with anger. "Admiral K, is this true? Have you betrayed the Dracarian Empire?" Admiral K remained silent for a moment, his face impassive. Then he slowly turned to face Zandara, his obsidian eyes glowing with an unnatural light. "I have only ever served the greater good, Empress," he said, his voice distorted and mechanical. "The architects have shown me the true path to salvation, the only way to save the galaxy from the devourer." "Salvation through manipulation and destruction," Zandara retorted. "That is not salvation, Admiral. That is madness." "You cannot understand," Admiral K said, his voice rising in intensity. "The devourer is inevitable. It will consume everything in its path. The only way to survive is to embrace its power, to become one with it." With a sudden surge of energy, Admiral K unleashed a wave of destructive force, shattering the quantum containment field and freeing the architect. The bridge was plunged into chaos as the architect unleashed its full power, tearing through the shields and wreaking havoc on the ship's systems. Zandara and Nikolai, caught off guard by Admiral K's betrayal, were thrown to the floor, their bodies battered and bruised. As they struggled to their feet, they saw Admiral K standing beside the architect, his cybernetic implants glowing with an ominous light. "Now you will see the true power of the architects," Admiral K said, his voice filled with triumph. "We will usher in a new era of galactic dominion, an era where the Devourer reigns supreme." But as he spoke, a figure emerged from the shadows, a figure clad in dark armor, wielding a weapon of unimaginable power. It was Sentinel Zix, the Dracarian chief technologist, his scales radiating a fierce, unwavering light. "You have made a grave mistake, Admiral," Sentinel Zix said, his voice resonating with authority. "You have underestimated the power of loyalty and the strength of the bonds that unite us." With a swift, decisive movement, Sentinel Zix unleashed a blast of energy from his weapon, striking Admiral K with devastating force. Admiral K staggered backward, his cybernetic implants failing, his body convulsing in agony. "You cannot stop us," the architect shrieked, its voice filled with desperation. "The Devourer is coming. It is already on its way." "Then we will be ready for it," Zandura declared, her voice ringing with determination. "We will stand together, united against the darkness, and we will not yield." With a renewed sense of purpose, Zandura and Nikolai rallied their forces, preparing to face the architect and its impending master. The battle for the fate of the galaxy had begun, and the echoes of betrayal would resonate through the nebula for eons to come. They know how to stop the architect by using the right frequency energy.